Daniel, John, we made it, guys. We are on the other side of the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. We now know pretty much everything about what we're going to be seeing come launch day, which is June 5th, hilariously right before Summer Games Fest. Nintendo don't give a damn, man. But yeah, we know the launch lineup. We know what's going to be there, what's not going to be there. We know some more of the system features, what that mystical, magical C button does. It's now the chat button. And then we also know the price, which notably is not something they told us outright. And so I think because we got the same panel as we did for the reaction, let's lead with something that we didn't get to talk about during the reaction, which is that launch price, $449 for the base system. How are you guys feeling about that? John, let's start with you.
Well, in pounds, it doesn't seem to hurt as much. It's £395 and 55 pence, whereas usually we have like nearly a direct conversion of America's pricing. So honestly, I feel pretty good about that price. It's around what I expected it to be. Don't feel good about all the pricing, but the console price, I'm fine with.
Okay, how about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I think we were around the $399, $449 area. That's pretty much what I expected going into this. And as we started to see more of the features that are in that what it's capable of, I was like, okay, yeah, this is probably, it makes more sense that it is a $449 console given the features I wasn't expecting it to be capable of. But as John said, there's some other pricing that we are not as keen on right now.
Yeah, and actually, I believe it was Adam Davis in our live audience chat here who. Adam Davis, who gets right to the matter of what I think we're all talking or thinking about here, which is $80 for Mario Kart World, which is wild.
It's a lot.
Where is that coming from? I mean, I was expecting games to be $70 because Nintendo were already trending in that direction this generation with games like Tears of the Kingdom. So I was expecting $70 games, but now we're doing $80 games and only on Switch 2. This is odd.
You get a pretty good saving if you get the bundle that has Mario Kart in. But it's still crazy. $80? It feels arrogant. It feels like they know Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was far and away the best-selling games. Like, how can we get even more successful? People are going to buy this anyway, so let's just, push it as far as we can. And I think the sad thing is they are going to get away with that. We look at that price tag. Is anyone here saying, nah, I'm going to pass on Mario Kart now?
Yeah,
sadly, you're right.
Not everyone's going to get the bundle. I mean, sure, some people will be able to save on the bundle, but some people want physical, and there are some people that they'll be getting it like further down the line, and they're just not going to be able to have that option to save. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Now, Professor Bonk says it's $90 for the physical, and I've seen that, but I've seen also conflicting reports on that, so I don't want to say for sure that it's $90 for the physical. I've seen some sources saying that is the case and some saying that's not. So I'm a little bit iffy on that. But if it is, that is even more bonkers. But if it's not, $80 is still crazy.
What are we doing here? Like $90? Like, even the thought of that is crazy.
Yeah.
Mario Kart is a game that we've been basically lacking for a decade. We've had a port, we've had a mobile game. We haven't really had a brand new one. And this one is crazy ambitious. It is open world. It seems like something that's going to last the entire generation. So if there's any game like where you argue whether it's worth the price, this probably is the one, but $90 is still unfathomable.
Yeah, and so it looks based on live audience chat that it's based on the region. Here in North America, it's still 80 physical, but in Europe, apparently, it might be 90 physical, which is wild if that's true. And then, of course, then you compare it to something like Donkey Kong Bonanza, which we know is the standard $69.99 which, what's the metric here? It's weird. What makes Mario Kart World an $80 game versus DK Bonanza being a $70 one? It's very strange, other than, if it's what you're saying, John, which is they're just being arrogant and they know that people are going to go for Mario Kart regardless.
Do you think it softens the blow for games that aren't Mario Kart? Because like $70 is still a lot of money.
It is, yeah. It doesn't. And
maybe if you put Mario Kart at this weird pedestal and then put everything else at 70, it's like, oh, they can get away with 70 now. I don't know.
I have a feeling it won't just be Mario Kart.
No, I think Smash is like the only one that can also maybe do it.
Eventually, I bet Smash, eventually the next 3D Zelda, and I do think the next 3D Mario, which is, still presumably on its way. I bet they think they can get away with $80 3D Mario. And you know what? They probably can. Same thing with Zelda.
Yeah.
It does hurt more right now because like the only other game that is 70 is Tears of the Kingdom, and most games still are the other price points. And as time goes on, we're going to be seeing more and more titles that are worth $70, probably $80, and it's going to just be. Unfortunately, we're going to be conditioned until it's going to become the new standard, as it is with PlayStation titles.
I can tell you now, Rockstar Games are so happy seeing this. Like, someone did an $80 game before us. Maybe we can do 150.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it's not just the games either. I mean, come launch day, we're all going to be spending a pretty penny because also the controllers, the accessories, but namely the Switch 2 Joy-Con and the Switch 2 Pro Controller, $90 each. In the US at least before tax. So we're spending. This is going to be painful for our wallets come June 5th. That's for sure.
I'm also going to be spending like a fool for that GameCube NSO controller. That's going to be on.
I don't know if I need a Pro controller yet. I'm like, we can use our old controllers with this.
That's true.
And the only thing you get with the new one is the C button and those back panels. So it doesn't feel like a necessity.
You also get the
Switch
headphones, the aux button
the headphone jack.
bottom.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, it doesn't feel like necessarily the same kind of necessity that the Switch 1 Pro controller did at the Switch 1's launch. If you already have a Switch 1 Pro controller, maybe you can wait a little bit. I mean, I'm still using mine from the Switch 1's launch, and it hasn't missed a beat. So
right, yeah. In terms of like what I'm really excited about, the more I think about that 120 hertz screen, like I'm over the moon about that.
Was
I didn't
a big
expect
surprise.
that at all.
Yeah.
And we know that you can play Metroid Prime 4 at 120 hertz, but what I'm really thinking about is how indies are going to handle that. Like you get your more basic games like Stardew Valley and Hollow Knight Silksong. They could easily run 120 hertz. It's just going to make all these indies feel smooth as hell over this life cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Especially for some of the titles that were built with PC in mind. Like you play Stardew Valley as it's meant to be on a PC with the mouse pointer controls. Or I guess you can have the option to do it traditionally with a controller. Like having more options seems like what they're going for with this functionality in general.
Yeah. I think that's why the console price doesn't bother me that much. It's around what I expected it to be, but you get a lot in there. You get a powerful handheld, for one. That's one thing. But you also get stuff that other consoles just don't give you, which is basically a PC in there, PC experience. Like we saw, like Civ 7 was in there with proper PC mouse controls. I will say with this Direct, it was pretty slim. It was very launch window stuff. We had a couple of like 20, 26 games, but we're talking tiny amounts. Most of the stuff was launch day or like July. So I feel like there's definitely more of a blowout to happen, maybe a Direct near the launch of the system. But we really don't know the longevity. And it feels like there's a lot of third party in particular, which is just sort of being slowly rolled out rather than like all given at once.
It kind of feels like maybe come late summer, we'll get another Switch 2 and maybe one Direct, giving us some more solid dates for some of these titles that were announced, like FF7, for example, in this launch Direct or this launch window Direct, but didn't actually get dates. And speaking of dates, one thing that we didn't realize until right before recording, we actually still, at the end of the day, still don't have a date for Metroid Prime 4. After all this, we've seen the game now on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. We know that it has enhanced modes on Switch 2, but it's still just dated 2025.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I was saying like Prime 4 is a launch title, right? And we were like, wait, no, it doesn't have a date at all. And they didn't date it last week either. We thought, okay, they're not dating it last week because of course they're going to date it in the Switch 2 Direct, but no, there's still no date.
So do we think that means maybe this is going to be like a holiday, like one of their big holiday games is being pushed to the end of 2025?
I feel like this is still going to come not within a launch window reasonably, because it seemed like they were going to push games like Pokemon to be later. Like that's probably more towards holiday, but early fall probably for Metroid.
I'm thinking
Prime
fall
4,
as well,
or late summer even. It's hard to gauge now because it's like where do they want to plant this between Switch 1 and Switch 2 at this point? Because there's no lack of titles for the Switch 2 right now, there is a lot shown, and that's probably why we don't have as much shown, because what they did show right now, that's going to keep a lot of us busy for quite a while.
For sure. I'm going to post the launch titles in live audience so they can all participate in this too. But out of everything that's coming day one, what are you picking up? Or what do you want to pick up, I should say?
Man.
Because it's pretty vast.
It is. I mean, for damn sure, for me, Arcade Archives 2 Ridge Racer, I gotta get my Ridge Racer fixed.
Yeah.
And that is technically Ridge Racer making another console launch in its own weird way. Because, it used to be that the series would launch with a new entry every console. And so it's kind of nice to see in its own
we
way.
got this big, shiny 4K console, and you're like, yeah, Ridge Racer's the first thing I'm picking up. Yeah.
Well, see, for me, just at a glance, Mario Kart, obviously. Yeah. Fast Fusion, for sure. I love me some Sheenan stuff. Yeah.
Street Fighter 6 would be a great portable game.
Yeah, I don't know that I need to double dip on it necessarily, but I might. I don't know, but if I do, it won't be at launch. Yeah, I do need that Kimberly Amiibo. That's true. I'll probably end up, depending on how much it is, I'll probably end up copying for that Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It just looks weird and cool, and as long as it's not like a $60, if it's like $20, sure.
Yeah.
And then for me, I know we were a little bit mixed on it, but I do love me some Bravely Default, and I'm down to to replay it in HD on the big screen, especially with that amazing soundtrack. So that's probably what I'm looking at.
I'm the same. Like, I'm going to pick that game up, but I was wondering why it was there, though. Like, why wasn't it in last week's Direct? Because it was not a Switch 2 showcase game. That was just the 3DS game on the TV.
It was very strange, yeah.
Yeah. But I think I'm pretty similar to you. I'll get Ridge Racer, I'll get Bravely Default, I'll get Fast Fusion. We get the Zelda Switch 2 editions within the expansion pack anyway, so we all got those.
Right.
I'll probably get Split Fiction, Street Fighter 6, Mario Kart World, and I might get Cyberpunk as well.
Oh, okay. I might get Split Fiction if I haven't already played it by then. But yeah, what about you, Daniel?
Yeah.
Well, Mario Kart's a real obvious one.
Yeah.
I want to see... Sure, what the heck is Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S? John, what is that?
I have no idea. They put it in the reel, just blew past it as if it was nothing, and it's like, is this just... Is the first game backwards compatible, or are you just trying to sell it again?
I don't know. Yeah, I do also want to try or pick up Bravely Default. I like how they went back to Flying Fairy and not where the fairy flies. Isn't that the original title?
Yeah.
And then Deltarune, obviously, that's I was waiting for Deltarune for a long time, and out of nowhere, Chapter 3 and 4, right there. But yeah, there's not too much more I feel like I need to immediately get right away. The Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, that's going to be like one of those weird, cozy Nintendo titles probably, where they're just kind of playing with the idea of, well, what is a game, what is a showcase, but like also kind of educating me in what makes the Switch 2 the Switch 2. That'd be kind of fun. It kind of feels like it should be a pack-in, but they're very averse to pack-in titles, so I couldn't expect too much for that.
No. But I'm pretty satisfied with it, though. Like, in terms of like what's brand new, there isn't that much. A lot of this stuff you can play elsewhere, but there is also that wow factor to playing these big HD games on a handheld. Like, playing Cyberpunk is going to be a pretty big wow moment, I think. And I wish they gave more of a showcase to Fast Fusion, because as Ash was saying, Sheenan always delivers. Yeah. Sheenan have been at the launch of like every Nintendo console since, I think, the Wii U. They did a 3DS game, they did a Wii U game, they did a Switch game. They launched with WiiWare, I think, with Fast Racing League. They have a lot of history, and Fast Fusion looked crazy, but we only saw it for like 10 seconds, if that.
Yeah, I need to see more of that. It is, but I certainly don't regret having already played Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, I don't. Amazing games. But I know I'm not going to have time to replay both of these games in their ultimate forms. That makes me a little teensy-weensy bit sad. Like on paper, I want to play them again. But in reality, I know that I can't. That I don't have that time.
It's fine to have a Switch 2 version of it, but I'm not excited by this like at all, honestly. I'm tired of this version of Hyrule. I don't want to go back a second or a third and a fourth time with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I might dabble with Tears of the Kingdom at the very least because I enjoy that one more as a game. than Breath of the Wild. But honestly, I'm just like, if depending on what they add to it, I guess sure. Did you guys see what they added to that actually with the with Zelda's notes and everything?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
there's more.
yes.
The GPS,
you
the
get that
GPS.
You get that Wii U GPS thing.
Yeah.
But you also there's voice notes around the world that are voice acted. And so that you can go around points of Hyrule and get like new parts of the story.
That's actually really cool.
If you go to if you go to Princess Zelda's study where she had like her little her diary, the Zelda's notes will actually have voice acted clips to talk to you and like she'll like explain what is happening in that area or just some lore about that. And there's more characters to get voice clips from with like Tears of the Kingdom. You get Master Koga and Rauru will also chime in with voice clips with Tears of the Kingdom. And God, there's so much that they didn't actually show fully that's in another trailer. You could do like photo mode and send that to people.
Cool. Which I've wanted for so long.
Yeah.
And the QR code thing too. Like when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I said like, what? Like you're de-incentivized to make these creations because they just live on your console. Why can't we share them? And now there's a QR code system.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah.
There's that function. There's like a daily bonus function to get every day. Like it's like a roulette, and you get something for it every single day. There's a function where you can take some of your weapons or items and like put them into like a little storage, and then you can send that to other people so that they can get those items for their playthrough. Just a bunch of crazy little ideas that I didn't expect them to do, and they didn't talk about it in the initial trailer.
There's quite a lot they didn't talk about. So that they showed off Yoshi's Crafted World and a loading comparison, which we've put on the channel now.
Right.
They didn't finish their comparison. They stopped it once the Switch 2 version loaded, so you had no point of reference for how slow it was on the Switch. It's not like a drastic jump. It took 4 seconds to load on Switch 2, and it takes 8 seconds to load on Switch 1, so double the speed there. But that's not a patched game. That's just a regular backwards compatible game. And another thing that they didn't share with us in the Direct is there are more games that are getting patches. So, and outside of the stuff that was in the Direct, which was like Pokemon Legends, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, what else was there? There was Kirby, and Lost... what's it called? Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Yeah,
and
with the new chapter.
Yeah. But there's also ARMS, Captain Toad, Mario Odyssey, Bowser's Fury, Clubhouse Games, Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, Game Builder Garage, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Big Brain Academy.
Pretty decent lineup. Link's Awakening specifically is one that I would be happy to revisit, the remake, to revisit with better performance, because as we know, that and Echoes of Wisdom suffer pretty mightily on those fronts. Or on that front, and I would definitely be down to revisit them with better performance.
Yeah, we still don't know if like general games just get better performance. We know loading time's better from the Yoshi example, but I'd imagine most games just get better performance out of the gate. So these ones listed here would be getting like 4K updates and maybe new content like some of the other ones got. But it's why do you choose Mario U Deluxe and not Mario Wonder?
Yeah, that, and also, as Oriol mentioned in our live audience chat, Mario and Luigi Brothership is a big missed opportunity, because toward the end of that game, when you get a bunch of NPCs on Ship-Shape Island, that game chugged like 15, 20 FPS.
You probably still will get performance updates with that. Like I imagine by default it'll still smooth itself out. But Pokemon Violet and Scarlet's a big one, because the Legend ZA footage was actually really good. It still looked basic, but it was smooth. It was really smooth
at least, yeah.
Yeah.
As Droid Content also mentioned, as you said, Scarlet and Violet, but like they said, those are the big ones because, given their current reputation in terms of performance, I mean, it could totally change the way people view those games.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's more to roll out as well, because this is a decent selection, but it's also a weird selection. Like Mario Wonder deserves to be in 4K. Some of these make sense, like Game Builder Garage, I think, already supports USB mouse. That's probably an update just to support regular Joy-Con mouse. Right,
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Still, sadly, no Kid Icarus Uprising with mouse controls, but hey, what are you going to do?
Sakurai's too busy working on Kirby Air Riders. That's a more important game right now.
That is so... how cool is it to see Sakurai go back to Kirby?
Yeah, it's
to be working on a Kirby game again. And I still don't doubt that he's also working on Smash. I still think that's true. But I love that he's getting to work on something that isn't Smash, especially given his stated desire to do so. And we've wanted, an Air Rider sequel for how long now? I mean, for years and years, and it's actually happening. That was such a cool surprise.
And the way it was shown, you'd get the impression that it's far off, but it's this year. And there's only about half a year left, really. So it's pretty close at this point. We don't really know if we saw CG or in game. It probably was CG.
I think it
but
was
that's
CG.
just 2025
I'm guessing
at some
CG.
point. Yeah.
But it's kind of looks something close to that. I mean, the visuals look. I mean, it's a Kirby game. The visuals always really pop and look very nice. And I hope I see more very soon. I gotta see how he's expanded City Trial if it's made a grand return.
Oh, it has to, right? It has to.
I was surprised that Elden Ring didn't get dated. That felt like that would be a shoe-in launch game. But that's just 2025.
Yeah, that is surprising.
But what's even more surprising is From Software have an exclusive Switch game.
Right.
Yeah.
The Duskbloods. Like, what?
Out of nowhere.
And the aesthetic is so Bloodborne. It's like Lovecraftian England this time. So you got like Big Ben and things in the background, but there's weird stuff like jetpacks as well. Big multiplayer focus. It's hard to really get a grasp of what it really is right now, but it just drips Bloodborne vibes.
We spent the entire trailer trying to figure out what is this like
what
exactly.
was it? Yeah.
What's the identity of this? Does it want to be Bloodborne?
Any moment a Bloodborne 2 title could have come up and we would have believed it because it looks just like it.
Yeah. And it also said Switch 2 exclusive. Do we think that's going to be a forever exclusive or just timed? It's got to be timed, right?
What an absurd thing.
That's insane. That's insane. It's got to be a timed exclusive.
It's got to be.
Yeah. There's no way.
I can't imagine that title would be. Yeah.
Own the Duskbloods IP? I don't know.
Yeah. Another really cool surprise we got that we kind of jokingly passed it off because before our reaction stream, we got a super chat talking about Hyrule Warriors 3. They won Hyrule Warriors 3. Yeah. Oh, that'd be nice. That's, probably not going to happen. That'd be nice.
Nah.
It happened. We got Age of Imprisonment. Also, certainly not. I didn't expect any new Zelda game announcement during this direct, and we got it via that. And I found that to be a really cool surprise.
The Link erasure continues as he's nowhere to be seen in this because he's not in that timeline. It's going to be essentially Zelda's going to be the main character again, but now for a Warriors game, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. I think that's cool too, but I think they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way to get Link playable in this
There'll
game.
be some dumb time travel stuff at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It'd be Link's grandfather coming back from 10,000 years in the future or something.
Yeah.
But it's really cool, though. Switch Koei Tecmo Warriors games are all kind of all over the place. Like, Definitive Edition actually runs pretty well, but the rest of them, they push the boundaries of what they can do. And this, the enemy count was nuts in that trailer.
It's huge.
Yeah. Hopefully there's like a 60 FPS mode, and that'd be delightful. But it'd be really nice to have a well-performing Warriors game on Nintendo again.
Yeah,
and
because Age of Calamity, as nice as it looked, was notoriously for sure. Rough performance-wise.
It was a slideshow for certain attacks as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got those Divine Beast battles, which were just like cardboard cutouts in the distance.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's true.
I remember. Yeah.
This game is also going to see, we didn't see this in the direct specifically, but it's also going to be getting a new Amiibo line.
Yeah,
with the champions that we see in Tears of the Kingdom, which they're probably also playable in here in some way or form.
Yeah, for
with
sure.
more time travel nonsense. But I hope it kind of commits to the actual canon and not just like, here's what could have happened if they did this instead. There was an egg creature to ruin everything.
They're cowards again, Daniel.
They did call it a canon. They called it the canon follow-up, I think, to the Tears of the Kingdom storyline. So they are at least calling it
They said nonsense
canon,
like this with Age of Calamity
exactly.
as well.
I don't believe it until I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting seeing Amiibo, though, because Street Fighter 6 has its own Amiibo line.
Right.
Now Zelda's got more
Yeah.
Amiibo. Amiibo's just come back.
I personally need that Kimberly Amiibo. It looks great.
It did look really good.
Yeah. It's interesting what their approach to Amiibo is these days. You're like, it just seems kind of a random scattershot approach. Like, okay, Zelda's getting some new amiibo. Street Fighter 6 of all games is getting 3 amiibo. But then you'd think like DK's new design for Bonanza would get, his more movie-like design. You think that would get an amiibo, but no. It's kind of weird. They're kind of just sort of scattershot approach to this now.
They could have made the amiibo fluffy.
Exactly, right?
Well, speaking of DK, DK's 1 month after launch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
very
close. Yeah, you get to have your time with Mario Kart, and then you jump into DK. And what a delightful looking game. Our first Donkey Kong game in a decade.
Yeah.
And you can feel Nintendo EPD all over this. You can feel their DNA in there. A lot of 3D Mario kind of influence. And the last DK game they did was Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. And I think you can feel that kind of flavor in there too.
A little bit. I'm still getting used to it, and I know largely it's popular, and I agree, I like it, but I think it's going to take me a little while to get used to what seems to be the apparent demise of the country style of DK designs, right? I mean, this is a different Donkey Kong, certainly looking more like he did in the recent Mario movie. And I think it's gonna take me a little while to get used to it. It's like, oh man, it's DK, but it's also really different looking, and it just feels weird to me still. But I'll get there. But
you can see the expression they're going for.
Definitely.
He is so expressive.
Absolutely.
In a way. The older Donkey Kong, he just kind of looked angry or goofy. You didn't really get any in between with that. Whereas now he's just super expressive. And the schmoovement. This game is schmoovement heaven.
Yeah,
There's that part where he climbs up that wall, goes into a bull dive. It's so smooth.
The entirety of the just everywhere looks like you can just break apart any part of the environment that you want to. Diving into it, coming out, you grab a chunk of the cliffside and use that to break even more rocks. It's crazy.
yeah.
They are playing with Donkey Kong's design more than just the face, though. Like they're putting him in outfits as well, which again, very EPD from Odyssey. But yeah, they're doing a lot with this guy now.
Yeah, there's like a heavy mining emphasis with this title. He comes out with the mining hat and some overalls and busts right through the wall. And yeah, that seems to be the whole entire theme of this one. And I'm very excited to see like where this goes from here. We got a lot of. There's just so much personality that I feel like we haven't seen in a long time. It's taking the Mario Brothers Wonder approach, in which it's largely the same character, but with certain art styles, you have that squash, that stretch. They're so much more animated, and the art style just lends so much to these characters. Much like what we see. Also, we saw a lot of that also in Mario Kart.
We did. Do you think 3D Mario is still coming, or is Donkey Kong the 3D Mario of year one?
I think it's still coming. I mean, maybe not for a little bit while longer than we thought. Maybe this is, maybe this is now occupying the slot of what I thought was the next 3D Mario. But I have to imagine they're still pretty deep in development on whatever the next big 3D Mario game is as well.
Yeah.
We're probably still having it like a Mario Odyssey situation. Like it didn't happen very close to launch window. It still came out within the same year, but it came out a lot later.
It was like November. November, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I imagine we'll still see one within the first year. It's just that there was so much else to show off, and DK's going to carry this for quite a while, and Mario Kart as well, that we just don't really need to see it right now. And it's probably maybe not far enough in development for them to be comfortable to show it.
I mean, that's the thing, right? A lot of this year is still very empty. We know the launch stuff. We know the launch period stuff, like a month or two after, but there's still a lot of unknowns, it feels like. So I imagine there are still a few Nintendo first-party games just lurking. I mean, Yoshi's Woolly World was lurking. The Yoshi's Woolly World icon was just mistakenly put in there, which is probably a Switch 1 game. But it's, a lot of their lineup is just mysterious right now.
Yeah. It was really nice to see that Woolly World surprise, just because it's one of my favorite. Honestly, it's right up there with Island as like my favorite Yoshi game. It is such a damn good game, and so much better than Crafted World. People who never played it on Wii U or 3DS are in for such a treat with that.
Oh, Professor Bonk mentions the basketball game. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that a second.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So like with Switch 2, obviously both Joy-Con are computer mice. And so you get experiences that you can't really do on PC, or at least people don't really make on PC. We've got two simultaneous mice. Like you could plug in two USB mice, but no one's going to do that. So this just gives an opportunity for like a new form of game where you can not just replicate a PC, but kind of go beyond it. And here you get like 2 mice to move the wheelchair wheels, and then you get gyro to aim the basketball. And it genuinely looks really clever.
I agree. Yeah. It just looks like one of those kind of like weird ARM style just alternative experiences that really only Nintendo would experiment with, you know?
This was called Drag and Drive, right? Drag Cross Drive?
Yeah, Drag Cross Drive. And, you know, as Miiverse Mod mentions, and I completely agree, I'm here for Parasports getting representation. I mean, that part of this is also really cool. And that leads me to be reminded of the fact that for the first time, really, Nintendo has launched a whole page on Switch 2 devoted to all the new accessibility settings that Switch 2 is going to have, like a high contrast mode, and you can make the text bigger. There's text-to-speech for the chat button. Nintendo have not typically really been known for going all in on accessibility like PlayStation and Xbox have in various ways in some of their marquee titles. So it's really nice to see kind of a surprising but renewed focus on accessibility for Nintendo with Switch 2, and I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
cool.
And Drag and Drive is one that I never really expected to like. I guess I didn't imagine what it would feel like to have actually using both Joy-Con as mice, because I'm just like, what kind of game would that entail? Like, I guess they kind of made this specifically with that in mind, and everything flows really well together from what we see, from the actual movements to being able to throw with the gyro controls. It's such a creative game in concept, and one I don't think I would have seen any other developers aside from Nintendo do it in this format. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, really clever. Man, you were talking about the accessibility options, Ash.
Yeah.
I guess that comes into the overall UI. How you all feeling about it not really being that different?
I predicted that the Switch UI was going to look pretty much the same.
And
there it is.
It's what I expected, honestly. Yeah.
I'm not as down on the Switch UI as most people are, or I guess a lot of people are. I think it's fast. It does what it needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
I hope there's themes. I think themes will just kind of make it more personalized and fun, but otherwise, I'm fine with it.
Overall, I am too. I think there's just something about, like, there's just that new system feel that I think can be a little bit enhanced more by a new UI, by something that just looks and feels new compared to something that we've been looking at for the past 8 years. But I do agree with you, John. Functionally, I'm fine with the Switch 1 UI, and if they're not going to change it much for Switch 2, that's fine. It just kind of helps that new system feel when you have something new, you know?
I feel that.
They really did sacrifice more of the character for functionality. I mean, it still loads extremely fast in pretty much anything that you load up. It'd be nice if they iterated at least a little bit to make it look a little different, because you still want to differentiate this is Switch 1 and Switch 2. That kind of goes, this design method kind of goes directly against that. But I guess they wanted to find a balance. They leaned a little bit too hard in Switch 1 style. And I hope everything just runs quickly enough, much like the eShop, which also looks fairly similar, just a little less yellow.
40 seconds of the eShop.
Yeah.
It's similar, but they've made some good improvements. So your wish list is no longer hidden in your profile settings. That's big. And there's also the thing that rotates around every week that recommends games to you. So you click on like the start thing, and it just takes you to a random game page that's tailored to your tastes. So based off what you've played or browsed or whatever. And it quickly takes you to but in the example, it was like Splatoon, Tears of the Kingdom. And on those game pages, it also tells you if people on your friends list have played those games. So there's some cool little quirks in there.
Yeah.
So it does seem better. But yeah, it's clearly based on the original eShop still.
Similar.
Yeah.
But similar but improved is fine too.
Yeah. This stuff was in the Switch one. If you go to your friends settings, you can see what's trending with friends. And they've just integrated that stuff together, which is logical.
Yeah. Man, there's just, I'm still kind of trying to get my head around it all, because there was, weirdly enough, I think you touched on it earlier, John, a lot shown, but also not a whole lot at the same time. But just the breadth of it all is just, there's a lot to keep on our minds. One thing that was one of the highlights, I think, for all of us, just because it was so weird for them to do it, that Hollow Knight Silksong jump scare. They just dropped it in a sizzle reel. What?
Yeah.
After all this, it's just here, 2025.
And it still didn't have a date.
Still doesn't have a date. Do we believe 2025? Do we believe that's actually going to happen?
I think so.
Yeah.
I forgot almost every single other title that was shown in that sizzle reel because we were reeling over Silk Song, except for like Witchbrook that we saw last week anyways.
There was a lot of stuff from the last Direct in there, yeah. There was also like Professor Layton, the New World of Steam, which, by the way, that'd be a great mouse game. Really great mouse game.
Yeah, it would.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a few cool mouse games in there. Like we have Civ 7, which is a launch title. 2 Point Museum, that'd be a great mouse game. But I'm still waiting for like Baldur's Gate 3. That'd be like the perfect mouse game.
I still need to bring it up because, of course, I do. We're getting GameCube on NSO as well. One of the launch titles, we have Wind Waker. All three of these launch titles are significant in their own special way.
Not always a good way. Yeah.
Wind Waker was the very first one shown, not the HD remaster. It was the original Wind Waker on GameCube, which, granted, it does look better because it's on NSO. The visuals are a bit crisper. There are some people that prefer those visuals over like the intense bloom and such with the HD version, but it also loses a lot of the quality of life bits about it, and it makes me wonder how some things are going to function, like the Tingle Tuner. Is that still going to function? How will it function on NSO? I don't know. A lot of the Game Boy Advance functionality is a bit of an unknown, but how do you feel about getting this before the HD remasters, guys?
It's weird, man. I don't. That's one of the biggest question marks, I think, of this generation for Switch is just why not? Why didn't we get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD on Switch 1? And maybe we still will. But it does feel like a really strange decision to give us standard Wind Waker on NSO before just the HD remasters. It's so weird, man.
It is really weird. As you're saying too, like, a lot of people do prefer the GameCube visuals, but then you miss out on the Swift Sail, you miss out on the Triforce Quest being tightened up. And there were other, like, part of the lineup was confirmed too, and there was Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, which are also pretty big Game Boy Advance connection games. So are they just going to leave that stuff out of there? I mean, they did in Pokemon Stadium, so maybe they will.
I wonder, and one of the key titles that's going to be really the test for that, and that I wasn't announced today, but that I hope is coming, is another Zelda game that needs to be on NSO. And I'm not talking about Twilight Princess. I'm talking about Four Swords Adventures, man. With online play, with it man. Too. Oh my god, that would be the dream, because that game rules.
Thinking about all these already.
Yep.
Pac-Man versus. I mean, we have Pac-Man versus on the Switch already, but online,
let's have it again.
Online,
give it to us again.
But
again, how are they going to do that Game Boy connectivity, that GBA connectivity with a game like Four Swords Adventures? Yeah.
One of the other launch games for that is going to be freaking Soul Calibur 2. Is coming back.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Such a good
just see that.
Yeah,
we've been begging for that for ages. Like since the Wii U, or like, where's the HD version with Link? And I guess we kind of got it.
Yeah. And we're gonna get to play it online. I know personally one of my best friends who will buy a Switch 2 just for NSO GameCube Soul Calibur 2 online. He loves that game that much, and a lot of people do. That was a really cool get.
Literally. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can get this launch day, not pick up a single game, and just play F-Zero GX online, and you're going to have a good time.
They announced F-Zero GX as a launch title for the NSO. F-Zero GX. Nintendo has renewed their faith in F-Zero in every single possible way.
Every single game.
Given that I already did like a little recording talking about NSO, but given that if we're able to play F-Zero 99 on Switch 2, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, we will.
Every single F-Zero title will be on one console now once that releases on NSO, and that's fantastic.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think we've sort of brought up two things to talk about here as well. Backwards compatibility. Every Nintendo game will, apart from Labo VR. Third parties, a bit of the Wild West. So there's a chart out there. There's like 2,000 games that they've tested or something, and about a fifth of them guaranteed. About fifths or so have some kind of problems that need to be tested out. So it's unclear if everything is actually going to work or not. From what they say, is like they launch fine, they're playable, but there's issues. And it seems like this is something they're going to continuously be working on throughout the generation. But there's not everything's going to be backwards compatible. Just most of it, and a lot of it seems to have a problem or two.
Yeah, which is a little bit deflating. I thought, I kind of thought going into this at Universal back and pat was just kind of going to be a thing that they were going for. But I also realized that's a huge job. It's a massive job. And, it does seem like something they're going to be continuously working on. But I did look at the list of games that currently have what they call startup issues, which says to me maybe they don't start up at all. But there are some pretty big ones here, like Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, Pizza Tower, Rocket League, Jackbox 1 and 2, Doom Eternal. All those, as we know right now, as far as we know, can't be booted on Switch 2 or have startup issues. And that's a little bit deflating, I have to say.
Yeah, we have a bit of a quote about how this is being done. So this is from the developer's interview. And it says, if we tried to use technology like software emulation, we'd have to run Switch 2 at a full capacity. But that would mean the battery wouldn't last so long. So what we did is somewhere between software emulation and hardware compatibility. This is getting a bit technical, but the process of converting game data for Switch to run on Switch 2 is performed on a real-time basis as the data is read in. So it's not emulation, but it kind of is. They're kind of emulating the Switch, but with some actual... It's half emulation, yeah. Half emulated, half native. And that's why some of these issues are coming up. But yeah, at the very least, all the Nintendo stuff works. But whether all your third-party games will, look at that list.
Yeah.
Bit of a toss-up right now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be weird if, like, we convert or, convert all our data to Switch 1 to Switch 2, do the whole system transfer thing, and then you've got presumably all these games you've downloaded on Switch 1, and you don't really know which ones are necessarily going to work or not, outside of the main first-party stuff, and that's just interesting to me, that's the approach they're taking, but I can see why, given what you just talked about from the dev interview.
Yeah. And one more thing to talk about from the F-Zero stuff. The C button. We haven't mentioned the C button.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
And I think that it's actually kind of cool. It opens up Nintendo Discord. And you can talk with your friends, which, that's normal. But you can also just share screens with each other at 3 frames per second.
Yeah, 3 frames. Look, I was kind of shocked they showed that. That was like, I don't want to share my screen if that's what it looks like.
No.
It looks terrible.
There's goodwill in there. Like if you play Mario Kart World together, it's open world, just want to chill around. Like, well, where are you? I was like, I don't know. Let me show you where I am. I think that's cool.
As long as it's not like something that you need to use for something that's integral to the gameplay, that you need to see someone else's screen. It's just a fun little add-on, honestly. Kind of like how the camera is also a thing as well that you'll be able to implement to other Switch titles like Mario Party. They're doing a lot with camera.
They're doing the iToy. They've just put the iToy out there.
They're mixing
and the Mario Party stuff looked cool. There's some cool applications for that camera.
I agree.
I didn't expect it to go as deep as it could. Like you have your faces in the icons, and they're implemented into different mini games, into the actual board game where your character's profile picture is replaced just with your face. It's gonna make for a lot of fun. That's gonna make streaming pretty fun too with other people.
For sure. Like I quite want that camera. I think it looks like it's gonna open up some really cool possibilities. As for how many games are actually going to use it, probably not that many. But I liked what Mario Party was showing us there.
I was looking up whether we know the price of the Switch 2 camera or not, and I'm not sure if we do. But I don't know if we talked about earlier. It says here on the site, compatible cameras. You can use the Nintendo Switch 2 camera accessory or any compatible USB-C camera that you like.
What?
Yeah.
Well, you can use any camera.
That's what it says. That's what it says on the website. I'll link it to live on
Nintendo-y.
I'm shocked myself. Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't do something
Okay,
like
apparently
that.
it's $50 or $60 for the USB-C camera
That's not
for the
so bad.
Switch 2 camera. But yeah,
Can I get a
scroll down.
USB-A to USB-C converter and plug in the iToy? Will that work?
Yeah, right. But yeah, scroll down to the bottom and it says you can use any compatible USB-C camera.
Bonkers.
A lot of things I feel very non-Nintendo about this Direct in general.
That's a shocker.
Yeah, that is genuinely shocking.
Huh.
It's also, you get like some scale of the camera there, 'cause it's next to the Switch 2, and it's basically the same size. It's not as big as it looks.
Amazing.
Well, I think there's still a lot to learn about the Switch 2, but I'm pretty satisfied with what we saw. I think Donkey Kong looks rad, Mario Kart looks crazy.
Yeah, it does.
We were expecting maybe they put a few new characters in there. They just put everyone they could think of while making
They
it
put
open world.
in so many just random normal enemies and creatures.
Yeah.
They're putting the cow.
Dolphin. Cow, yeah.
Cow!
That's so good. But and I'm going to continue to scream this at the top of my lungs until they do it. Still no Dixie Kong outside of tour. Come on, Nintendo.
How do we get cow and crab before Dixie Kong?
I know. I don't get it.
Cow, crab. You can the bitty bug inside the bitty buggy, which is like Yoshi riding the Yoshi bike. There's the penguin. The little penguins are playable too. And God, what was the other one I was thinking of? Yeah, there's so many in there. I love how they're going so far with this random. Like, how deep are they going to cut for these characters at this point?
Apparently, we predicted cow. I was looking at the comments on one of our videos, and they're like, "You guys called cow like months ago."
I don't remember
Did we
that.
predict cow?
No, you called penguin. I remember that prediction video we did. You did call the penguin, but I don't think we talked about the cow.
Well, I want to drive as a penguin. I think I'd main a penguin, in fact.
Respect.
I
don't remember.
We've got to watch that over and find cow. Cow might be in there.
You know, I also forgot that we didn't see Diddy Kong. I'm so focused on finally getting Dixie in one of these games that we didn't even see Diddy, which that's interesting, right? Like, do we think that's maybe a symptom of this redesigned DK? Are they going to maybe go away from the supporting?
He's part of Nintendo
He
world.
has to be, right?
They won't delete Diddy.
Cancel Diddy.
Some people like Diddy more than Donkey Kong.
Can't replace Diddy, says
You can't replace Diddy or
Cow is the
Dixie.
new Diddy.
And maybe I'll even allow Kitty to stick around. But you can't erase the Kong supporting family members. Also, that Boshi, whether it's a costume or not, the fact that we got Boshi in Mario Kart,
I can't believe we
is
saw a
amazing.
Boshi in there.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, but this is a Nintendo system where you can play Metroid Prime 4, 120 hertz with a mouse. It's crazy, right?
That's nuts.
What are we doing here? So I am satisfied with this. I think the game pricing is absurd. The lineup is still a bit empty. There's definitely a lot to fill out there, but what we have, I really like.
Yeah, and I mean, we're barely 2 months out from this thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not that far at all at this
60
point.
days or so, yeah. Right as we're going into Summer Game Fest, which hurts because Steve and I at least will be there covering it, and I'm going to be wanting to play Switch 2 stuff.
Yeah. I think Steve mentioned just ditching it after the first day or something because Switch 2 is more important than Jeff, unfortunately.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think I'm just ready to learn more.
Same.
I'm eager. I think there's a lot of cool games you can put on this. I think The Sims 4 could just have a general PC version that you can chuck on the Switch too. There's a lot of just PC stuff you can do now. It's a really interesting system.
Yeah, agreed.
I shouldn't have gotten as many joking predictions right as I did in some way or form. But I'm happy that we got that. We have what we have. There's so much to look forward to. I see now why they did some certain games on the Direct last week, like certain games that are coming out until 2026. We're not going to be thinking about it, but it is out there, like Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life. But when that comes around, we'll get a more focus on that once that time comes around next year, because all of this stuff at this point, we don't know the whole list of games this year. I doubt we do. So that'll keep us occupied until the next year.
There's going to be so much more. 120 hertz Rhythm Heaven.
Oh, man. Oh, that's literally music to my ears, man. I need it.
3D audio Rhythm Heaven.
That's true, too. Maybe now maybe we know the reason for 2026. They're just getting it to work at 120 hertz.
Maybe.
And with 3D audio, yeah. But suffice to say, we are on the cusp of a big, bold, exciting new era for Nintendo and Nintendo fans, and we are so glad to have you all out there along with us for the ride. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. If you enjoy what we do here at GVG, please do consider dropping a like, subscribing to the channel. Every little bit really does help. We also have a Patreon that you can check out at patreon.com/GVGaming. And in the meantime, tell us what you think in the comments. We want to know if you're excited about what you saw in the Switch 2 Direct today. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.
Cow.
Meet again.